This meeting is being transcribed.
All right, well, welcome again. My name is Erin Durham-Wright. I use she, her pronouns, and I work as a research and instruction librarian here at UMBC. I myself have used Zotero, and I think it's a really great citation management tool. So I'm happy to share that today with you all. If you have any questions at any point, feel free to unmute, or you can also just type them in the chat. There'll be pauses along the way, and I'll kind of look at those and we can address those questions. So Zotero, oh yeah, and it is, oh, just to note that there is in person and then also online today. So I actually would love to know a little bit about where you're coming from. If you've used Zotero before, if you're brand new, what are you most hoping to learn about Zotero? If you don't mind just typing that in the chat. Actually, if you don't mind also just sharing your major or your program, that would be great. For all of those of you who are on chat. Anyone can feel free to share. Sometimes it's just helpful for me to get a sense if you've used Zotero before or if you're totally brand new to it. Let me know if there is something you'd like to learn, especially. Also, I hope my slides are showing. Let me know if they're not. I'll just assume they are. Okay, yeah, absolutely. I think that's common to just want an overview and start out. Yeah, absolutely. So some have used it before, it looks like, and then maybe it didn't quite. It's just good to get an overview or refresher. And then some are brand new to it, which is great. Excellent. Fantastic. Okay, so some experience also in as a writing advisor, which is great. Well, welcome. It's good to have everyone here today. Today we are going to focus on kind of the basics, but we'll get to all these topics kind of as we go along the webinar, the workshop. By the end, we'll look at the sync and group features. We'll definitely generate bibliographies, and then if you have any questions, you can let me know. Zotero is a free web citation management tool, so I like it because there's a lot of features that are all free. Just note that there is a premium version you can pay for that gives more storage space, but I have used it and I have never needed that. So I think you can get a really good amount of use out of it without paying for it. I think it's a great free product. And of course, with citations, I generally like to think of them as a conversation. So if you are trying to keep track of all the scholars and all the researchers as you're working on a lit review, or as you're working on a thesis, a dissertation, whatever project you're working on, it can sometimes just get really complicated. And I think having a tool to help organize, think about different, filing system or folders, you can kind of group different researchers together or different topics together. I think it can be very helpful that way. And then there's also just the pragmatic help of being able for it to generate a whole bibliography. It just saves time typing. It can be really, really nice that way. So you'll want to get started with Zotero by going to the website. I'll put this in the chat. This is zotero.org. If you have not yet downloaded Zotero, you'll want to click on the download button and you'll want to open that up. So there's a few things you'll want to make sure you have access to. So number one, you want to download the main software tool. So this is for your desktop computer or your laptop computer. You can download it both places. I recommend that. You will also want to install the browser connector. This can be used with most browsers, Chrome, Firefox, Safari, I think Edge as well. That will allow you to navigate web pages, the library databases, and easily insert citations. So I highly recommend the connector. You'll want to register for an online Zotero account. This will allow you then to have a cloud library. It's a wonderful backup. If your computer should ever crash, you'll still have your Zotero library if you have set this up. So I highly recommend that. That's free. All this is free. And then new to me, I've actually never used this. I'm going to go and download. I need to go ahead and download, try the the Zotero app. I think it's available on both Google and Apple app stores. So let me just follow that link in. You'd want to download. And whatever program you're running, a Mac, Windows, you can look at the different versions available, whatever you need there. You also definitely want to install the connector, the browser plugin. So again, lots of different options there. So make sure you have that. And then this is new. I have not used it, but there is now an app, which is exciting. So now the other thing I mentioned was making sure you had an online Zotero account. So to do that, you'll want to log in. You can click on the top right where it says login. It's filling out my information, so I'm going to go ahead and log in. If you have not made an account, just click on register for a free account. And that should get you started with that. I'm going to go ahead and log in. I am a human. I'm going to log in there. Something's wrong. Let's see. Could be right. Oh, the CAPTCHA failed. Let's see. Okay, there we go. Okay, perfect. So it just takes me back to this page, but if I click at the top now, there's a link that says web library, and that is going to actually open up my cloud library, my Zotero. So we'll be here in a second, but just know that those are the things to make sure you have loaded on your device. Okay, so yes, again, you'll have the setup. It will show up as an icon that looks like this in your on your desktop. I think it's hiding over here. There's my Zotero there. All right, and then the browser connector. If that is connected, I'm using Chrome right now. It does show up as a little icon at the top. It shows up as a PowerPoint because right now the web page I'm on is Google Slides. So it kind of registers that as a slide deck, which is correct. I am using Google Slides. Kind of cool. It will change according to the website that I'm on or the type of source I'm looking at. Oh yes, and I do have a link there. So register for free account, log in. This will get you the web library access. So let's actually just open up Zotero and take a look at a couple things. I want to show you the main layout, some of the tagging and sorting features, and we'll do some searching and adding content. So here we will go. Let me just make sure I can share that. Let me know. Hold on. Let me open this up first. You know what I think? There we go. Hopefully in the screen, it is showing Zotero now. Let me know in the chat or unmute if that is not the case, but you should see a program with 3 columns, essentially. It's a big spread. You're gonna have a column on the far left, the main information with all the sources and the citations in the middle. And then if you click on a source, you're gonna show some options here for taking notes and for tagging and looking at the full text PDF. So just be aware that it's kind of like a 3-panel layout. So over on the far left, we'll start here. This is your main access to your folder system. You can add a folder easily. You would just name it, click on that icon on the top, name it whatever you want, and you can also do subfolders. So if I wanted to do a subfolder, let's do one. Olympic Games. I have been watching the Olympic Games and it's been fun. So underneath, instead of just putting it as a top level folder, which I could do under my library, that's fine. I'm just gonna make a subfolder under the Zotero workshop today. So now I'm creating a new subfolder and that just showed up here and it's blank now because I don't have any sources about the Olympics. Now, if I go to a top level folder, you'll see I have sources already in my Zotero folder. If I looked at any of these other topics, you could see the sources I have. So you can choose how to organize your folders. Obviously, it's great to organize by topic or maybe by assignment or paper project you're working on, perhaps. You could also organize by course, right? If you're in the midst of taking 2 or 3 grad courses, 3 is a lot. Whatever courses you're taking, you can also create subfolders for that, or the different weeks of the course, and you can put all your readings in there. If you're working on a dissertation or thesis, you could also organize by chapter of your dissertation, of your thesis. So there are many, many ways to organize. You could also just do it by topic. Mine is generally by topic right now, is what's useful for me. That is the left column. Now here in the middle, when I click on a folder, it's going to show me what is in that folder. It's going to show me the sources and the content. Generally, it's split up into the creator, the author, the title of the work, and the year. Now you can change those. You can go in and you can change the order of those. I could put the title first, the creator, the year over here. I can just drag and drop those different columns. You can also kind of organize and sort alphabetically if you click on creator. Now it's doing Z to A, and then unnamed authors show up first after Z, A to Z. I again can drag my creator column back over to the far left, and I can sort it that way too. Oops, let's try. There we go. So creator, year, and title. If I wanted to sort by most recent, I could click on the year, and now it's sorting from the most recent publication to the least recent. Open up my, if you want to look at your whole library all at once, all items that you have, be pretty long, this is all free storage, so that's pretty great. Again, you can sort alphabetically, you can kind of change the order, how you want to see your display. That would be that little button up at the top. I'm just going to hang out in my Zotero folder for a bit. Here we go. So it's sorted alphabetically, that looks fine. Great, and then any unnamed authors, or if there's something without a lot of data, like web pages, they're going to show up with whatever they were able to take from the web page. Sometimes that includes an author, sometimes it does not. Now, if you're able to go back and find an author on that web page, you can add that in. So you can click on whatever metadata shows up here, and you can hand type any information that was missing. So the browser is going to crawl the website or crawl the source for as much data as it can get, whatever citation information it's able to grab. It's not perfect, and sometimes obviously websites don't have that information. So again, you can always go back and double check, and you can add anything that's not present, like the date. You can go back and just hand click and add any of those fields, and then click enter. Now, speaking of, you can also add any source manually. So for example, if you happen to have a citation list of readings from your professor, you could just type those in if you wanted and create a citation. So to do that manually, you can go into your folder and click the new item option at the top. Looks like a little paper with a plus sign. And then it's going to actually give you a whole list of types of sources: book, film, journal article, etc. Newspaper, podcast. There's a whole bunch of things. These are just going to kind of format it the way the citation works for those types of sources. You can just do a standard article. Here we go, journal article. You can see it asks for the title, the author, the publisher, the place. You don't have to fill out all of this, but whatever is relevant, the link to it, and I can add it manually. Now, that's great. That's great. I can do that, but it does take time, right? So the magic thing about Zotero is that browser connector that will allow you to automate this process where you don't have to type everything manually. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this. I'm going to right click this entry here, and I'm going to just move it to the trash. Yep, thank you. Okay. So an easier way to do this is by using the connector. Let's try that now. I'm going to open up. Let's see, let's go back here. I am going to just head to the library homepage. We're going to start with the library. So if you are searching for databases, if you're searching for books or ebooks, journal articles, it's great to use the library databases. Let's say I want to learn about the history of the Olympic Games. So I will do a search. I always want to sign in. So this is a big pro tip. If you are, especially if you're off campus, but I would do it no matter what. I'm on campus, I always sign in. It will give you access to full text if you sign in. And it will also give you access to see what other holdings there are, if you can request something from another library. Highly recommend it. That's my #1 tip. Always sign in. Okay, and you can tell if you've signed in because the banner will disappear and your name should be at the top right of the screen. So I am signed in. Okay, this looks great. This is a physical book. Looks like there's some articles, some different games, different years. That sounds really interesting too. So I'm just going to select one just as an example. Once I'm on the page with all the metadata, meaning like the citation information with the book, it's going to give you the details here, the title, the author, etc. That is a great page to click on. I see a question in the chat. I'll be there 1 second. So once you're on the library page, this would be the place to click on the Zotero connector icon. Since I'm on the library now, it registers it as a book. There's a lot of nice, robust metadata here. So I highly recommend, if you can, finding your source in a library website because it will give you quality metadata. So I'm going to add that by clicking on the Zotero icon. It has now changed into a book icon because it registers this as a book. I'll click on it, and it's the default is that Zotero workshop. It was the last folder I was in. I'm going to change that though. I'm going to say more. We'll open up a list of all my folders and subfolders. I'm going to open out that workshop, and I am going to click on Olympic Games and select done. Now it's going to go into my subfolder. There's a question in the chat. Does logging in with UMBC email work better? No. So if you are just open with your email, that won't count. You'll need to actually log in through the library prompting and do the duo authentication. So the question was, can I just log into my UMBC email? The answer is no. You'll need to actually log into the library sign-in. Yeah, but that's a great question. I'm glad you asked. All right. So once we're here, now we have just that one item that I've added so far. And it is that book, is this book, A Brief History of the Olympic Games by David Young in 2004. So again, this should match. We have 2004, David Young. And then over on the far right panel is where all of the metadata shows up. We have the title, the type, the author, 2004, the publisher, etc. And that's my main metadata. So that looks pretty good. If I needed to change anything, like for example, it says, oh, that's correct. It's from a series, The Brief History of the Ancient World. So it is part of a book series, so I'll leave that there. But if I needed to change anything, I could go in and edit, add, cancel, redact, cut out information, whatever you need to do. So now you can also do this for any other website. So this browser connector works like a browser, right? We can go to the news, New York Times, NPR. Let's take a look. Say I just wanted to add. Let's add the ice skating article. So up at the top now it shows up. My icon is now like a little news icon. Shows up as a newspaper. It's really small. You might not be able to see it, but it does say save to Zotero when I hover over it. We're going to go ahead and do that. And now it shows up in my Olympic Games file. So it's super easy. All I'm doing is clicking and adding it to Zotero. Let's do one more and then we'll take a look at the metadata there. So let's go to Amazon. Let's do Young and a brief history of the Olympic Games. Let's actually compare them. So we'll look at this. This is the same book, 2004, Brief History of the Ancient World. That is right, David Young. Okay, so now I'm going to select it. It does show up as a book, so it registers it as a book, which is great. Doesn't always do that. Okay, so let's take a look. We have, so the one I just added is going to be highlighted. So this is the Amazon one. Right away, I can see that the date is missing. It might not have picked that up from the metadata. A shopping site, any retail, Amazon, etc., is not going to be quite as great. You can kind of see it didn't pick up the series title. It didn't pick up the date. It only picked up Wiley Blackwell. It didn't actually pick up the publisher. So if we compare it to the library one, now we have the place of publication, the publisher's name, the date, the series title, the author, much more information from the library site. So even if you're getting stuff from Amazon, I always recommend copying and pasting the title into the library and just seeing if there's a library version. You'll get much better metadata. Since this is a duplicate, I'm going to go ahead and just, I'm going to delete it for now. Okay. So whatever site you're on, again, Amazon, news sites, a library website, you can use that connector browser and add it in to Zotero. Okay, there's a question in the chat. Question is, would you use the export the IRS Zotero button on the library website? You know, I honestly have never used it just because the connector is so simple to use. But if you're having trouble scraping the metadata, you can definitely use that option that shows up. Let's see, here on the options, I believe, export RIS to Zotero. That's basically, you're going to get a little file, a RIS file that has the metadata, and then you can export, you can import it. If you go to Zotero, you would encode it, download it, allow. Oh yeah, sometimes, okay, you'd have to make sure your cookies are cooperating. But then you would go into Zotero and you would select, let's see, I think you would do file and you would do import, and then you could add an RIS file is what you would do. So that would be the file and then the import option. But honestly, the connector works so well, I would just do that. It's a lot easier that way. Good question. There's also a third way to add sources. So we've talked about the connector and we've talked about the manual. That would be here, that's the manual way. There's kind of an in-between option in which you use like an identifier and it will pull the information into the site. So for example, this is helpful if you have any of these, an ISBN for a book, a DOI, which is an article direct identifier, any of these, archive, ID, PubMed, identification numbers. So actually we could go back to that Amazon book and they should have an ISBN. They do. I'm going to copy and paste that here. I'm going to go back into Zotero. I'm going to click on the wand and add the ISBN like this. It will register it as an ISBN. You'll just click the search. Oh, bummer. Okay, so it didn't find it. Let me see if I can just, let me try taking out the hyphen really quick. That might be the issue. Let me just take that out. No, okay, so sorry, out of luck there. Sometimes it works, usually it works for me. I'm not going to troubleshoot it right now, but know that I have used that and it can be helpful. You don't have to though. Let me just, I'm curious, if I go into my collection, you can look at a DOI. I'm curious if it will find this DOI. Let's try it again. Let's try it with the DOI. It found it. So there we go. It did work for the article. Through deserts and diet-related health outcomes. So it did pull in the correct article. The nice thing about using that instead of the manual is that it does pull in correct information. It has pretty robust metadata that way. And it works, I guess. So ISBN was not working today, sorry. I'm gonna go ahead and delete this because it does not belong in my Olympics folder. Move item to trash. All right. That is generally the layout of Zotero. We could, let's just talk a little bit about tagging. We've definitely done some searching and adding content. There's ways to search within your Zotero library as well. So I'm going to show that and how to tag. So let's go back. I'm going to pull that screen down, open up Zotero. Okay, we'll go back to my larger folder here. In order to tag, you'll want to select an item. So I click on an item, and then that opens up that third panel. And then over here are some different options for you. The tagging is here. It's a little orange tag. It's hard to see the icon, but you can kind of scroll over and they should show up as to the options you have. The tagging option then will allow you, it's going to pull in whatever tags the article had, whatever metadata was there. These are often the descriptors, the keywords, the subjects that come with that article that the author supplied or the publisher supplied. You can add your own, however, and this is helpful if you want to do some double sorting, right? You can do your subfolders, your folders, your subfolders, but then with tags, you can actually link across those folders if you want to do it by topic. So I'm just going to say access. This is the food desert one. Access to food. That's my topic tag. So I added it. It shows up in a different color because I added it. So I can see what ones were done by the author, what were in the publication, and then what tags I've added. I actually want to demonstrate this in another folder really quick. So if we do, so here's some works about algorithms. And I have, I think, a pretty, yeah, these are tags I've added. So if I click on any of those added tags, this is a way I can search across them. So if I go up to this search option here, I can search by tag, and I can also search by other things like subject, title, publication date, author, right? It's kind of all fields and tags is what that search is for. So I'm going to put algorithm in there. And now I have my algorithm tagged items. That makes sense. So I'm going to expand it out to my full library. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to say algorithm. And now it's pulling in from my broader library, my entire library across all my folders. So there's more items. It's going to pull in algorithm if it shows up in the title, in the subject terms, or in the tags. You can also search really quickly by the last name of an author. So bell hooks, these are my items from bell hooks. You have a couple duplicates. Yeah. So you can get rid of duplicates pretty easy in Zotero. I need to just clean up my files a bit. Yeah, you can search by last name. You can search by topic. If I do Olympic, those are the two articles that I just added. So the searching feature is that little browser bar, kind of, I don't know, halfway down, up on the page on the top with the magnifying glass to get you there. The sorting feature we already went through. The sorting feature is where you can kind of group your articles by alphabetical, A to Z. You can do it by most recent, by the year. You can kind of look at the different options there. I'll do it alphabetically. So sorting we've talked about searching. We've talked about adding content. And then I guess one other thing for the layout I can show is the third panel, because there are quite a few options in that third panel. So just the general one, once you click on an item, is going to show the metadata. It's going to be the info of the article. If you click on the next icon down, just below it, you're going to get the abstract, and sometimes the full text can be there. I don't have the full text, so it's not showing up, and that's fine. You can also add attachments. If I had an attachment, it would show up there. I think there's an example of one that has an attachment. Let's see. Yeah, so this is an example of one that has an attachment PDF. It's going to show up under the clip icon, the paper clip. You can also look at your subfolders. The tag option we've already talked about shows the tags. You can add tags with the plus sign. The related option is another, I guess, another sorting option. You can actually link in an article that you think is related. This obviously is a third option, right? You have the folder option, the subfolder option, and the tagging as ways to connect articles. You also have the option to identify a related article. So to do that, you click plus, and again, it would open up your Zotero library, and you could add in an author name or a title, and then you would click. So this is adding in related articles that are already in your own Zotero library. You're not searching for them on the web, you're just making that connection within your Zotero account. That makes sense. So again, we've gone over the 3 panels, the layout, how to sort items alphabetically by publication year, etc. We've talked about the search feature, how to add items, both using the connector and the manual options. And we've gone over kind of the 3rd panel and all the different options on the tools there. So I'll just pause for a second, get some water. Are there any questions so far before we talk about bibliographies? Just pause. Okay, yeah, well, we'll move forward. We'll talk about bibliographies and a few other things. As we go forward, just a few screenshots. If you have an older version of Zotero that may have looked a little different, the layout and the aesthetics are slightly different with the Zotero 8, but same functionality. Zotero 8 is the most recent, so if you can always update if you have an older version. We talked about searching. That's the kind of the browser icon that looks like that, a screenshot of that. And we talked about both sorting. You can switch between alphabetical, descending, ascending, the subfolders, the folders, and the tagging. We also talked about adding content using the browser plugin. We did an example from the news site, from Amazon, from the library. And we also talked about adding either manually or using that wand, the identifier wand. Those are all ways to add content. So now we're going to talk about using the bibliography features. The Word Office plugin, you can use Google Docs extension. That should automatically be part of that connector if you're just installing that now. Okay, so let's actually, I'm going to start with Google Docs actually. So let's open up a new Google Doc. Here's my bibliography. Let's say I want to generate a reference list or a bibliography list. So I'll go to Zotero and I'm going to go into my workshop folder. You can do this in your whole library, you just select whatever you want, or you can do it in an individual folder or subfolder. Within that, you're going to select whatever you want. I think what I'll do actually is add one more, add a couple more Olympic sources. Oh, just a note, news sources are kind of hit and miss as far as the quality of the metadata. So the library is the very best. News sources just depends on how well they have added that in. I'm going to put that in my Olympic Games subfolder. There we go. So we can take a quick look. I'm going to add one more library. Add this. Let's see. Let's add an article here. Okay, I'm going to add this in. That's an older version. 1970s. No, thank you. Fine, we'll just add this. This is an article. At the top, we can link this in. Might be a book chapter, actually. Yeah. Okay, here we go. And then one more. Let's do. Okay, so now I can go back to, I have a few more sources in here. Let's say I want to generate a bibliography with these sources. I'm gonna just do it as it comes, just select what I want, all 5 of them. And then I'm going to right click. So there's 2 methods. There's a drag and drop method, and there's the right click method. I'm just gonna right click on my mouse, or if you have that option in your computer, just select and then select create bibliography from items, kind of down at the bottom of the list. A pop-up will ask you what kind of citation you're going to use. So let's just, right now, APA is what's selected. I'm going to keep that there. I'm going to say copy to clipboard, and I want it as a bibliography. So my citation, my output is a bibliography. I'm going to copy it to clipboard. I'm going to select OK. So now I'm going to open up my bibliography. I'm going to right click again, and I'm going to paste it. Voila, and it shows up in APA format. Although I would want to check it over, it's not going to be perfect, so I always recommend checking it over. But generally, it has the author, the initial, the year. Looks pretty good. Has the publication in italics, the volume, the issue, the pages, and the link. That looks pretty solid, right? So sometimes with NPR, this is a news article. It's pretty good, actually. It has the title of the article, the date, and the link. The date usually for a news article includes the month and date. So this is pretty good. This one I might want to add a little bit. Thoughtful publishing. And it looks like it did not get the publication location. So that's an error right there. I'd want to go in and make sure that was, I think that's true for APA. I think you do need a location still. So again, you can check that over. So it's always good to double check your citations, but by and large, that saved me a ton of time and it looks pretty good. So that's one way you can do the click. Let's see, that's the click, the paste option. That was the click and paste option. Now we're going to do the drag and drop method. It is what it sounds like. It's pretty simple. We're going to start over again. Clear that all off. In fact, let's just do this in a Word document instead, so we can demonstrate Microsoft Word. New document. Okay. So for the drag and drop, it is as it sounds. I'm going to select all the ones I want. We'll just do 4 this time. You don't have to select all of them. You can just do the ones you want. Go. We're gonna now go back here. Sorry, I have 2 pages open at once. Okay, and we're just gonna drag them in. Okay, so there is my drag and drop. Now, looks pretty good again. Oh, you know what? It is showing them up as. So this actually might be something we would want to fix. It looks like it's not quite getting the APA style because it's giving me last name, full first name rather than initial. This looks more like MLA actually. That's weird. Let's see. What can I do? Okay, let's see if we can fix that. Okay, we're just gonna drag, hopefully an APA. Okay, we're having trouble with the drag and drop, clearly. So let's do the click and paste and just see if it gets the formatting right. So we'll do create bibliography, APA. Okay, and then we're gonna do the paste. Okay, That's looking correct. So that's interesting. That might be a little bug actually in the program. Of the two, it looks like the click and paste option gives you more correct citations. The other one looked like an MLA style. This is more correct to APA style. So just make a note of that. I'll have to note that to myself when I'm teaching. There's a question in the chat. When you paste a bibliography, does Word add them to its sources database for citations? Sounds like you might be more familiar with Word's Microsoft Word citation database options. I don't know if I am, but yeah, so I don't think so, is my answer. However, if you're working on a paper in Word, whatever sources you use, connect with Zotero to use in-text citations, it will generate a bibliography from that. So I think the way to use the Word platform is to make sure you're typing your paper in it and adding those in-text citations, after which it does save those and it will generate a bibliography based on anything you typed into Word. So I don't think I exactly have your answer, but I can demonstrate that actually. So let's talk about in-text citations in both Google and Word. So let's actually just get rid of that. Let's say you were writing your paper, blah, blah, scholar asserts that the modern games have helped to have highlighted geopolitical tensions. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. And then I'm gonna cite them. So I want to click on my Zotero option at the top. If you have just downloaded Zotero, it should automatically include this in your Word if you have Word. You may need to shut off your computer and reopen Word to make sure it added, but it should add. Then we're going to insert a citation over here. We have APA, and we're going to say okay. And then it's going to open up my Zotero library and I can search for it. So let's add that from the Young book, Brief History of the Olympic Games. I'm going to select, and I think that's all. So now I'm going to select accept, and it shows up now in my APA style, last name and year. This would change if it was Chicago. If I was doing Chicago citations, it would show up as a footnote. So it's whatever you've selected, and you can change it, right? You can go back to your bibliography and do a different citation style. I kind of, as a librarian, shift between a lot of them. I do Chicago, I do MLA, I do APA most frequently. So I'm able to kind of shift between projects, and it's pretty easy. Let's do another more. So blah, 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 Olympic Games and citation, add. I'm going to search by Olympic. You could search by last name. And let's do this one as well. I'm going to add. So I select whatever ones I want to add, and then I'm going to select the arrow. And now it gives me both citations if I really wanted to cite both articles. Those are the news articles, I think. Okay, so that's my in-text citations for APA. If I wanted to generate a bibliography, I can do add edit bibliography, and it will have stored those. So now it's pulling out a bibliography in alphabetical order with those three authors that I've cited in the paper body: Pagano, Treisman, and Young. I could always reformat this at the bottom. I can call it my reference works cited reference list, I think, for APA. There we go. Yeah, so pretty easy. You can do the same thing with Google Docs if you have the connector. So again, you would be typing along, do blah, blah, add citation inserts. Oh, it's Zotero. There we go. You'd add a citation. That's where I can select. Let's do an MLA actually. We'll change it up. MLA citation. Here we go. Let's do Young here. Select there, and Scholar and News Reports have stated add citation, treatment. Let's see. Here we go. There we go. Okay. So MLA usually does page number and author last name and page number. So that's why the year is not showing up. It's different than APA. But that looks good. Great. MLA style, because it's a news link and I can go in and add a page number. I didn't. So you can manually add that. I want to go back to Zotero and then say add bibliography, thinking, and then it has added the two I had. So it has Young and it has Treisman, and it looks like it is an MLA style with the quotes, with the capital letters, with the full name, and the date later on. That's MLA. So that looks pretty good. That's going to be my works cited for MLA style. Okay. So again, you can see it's pretty easy to shift between citation styles if you have different projects and different citations. I'll pause here. Any questions? So again, I probably recommend the click and paste option. That seemed to work better. Okay, syncing. So we've not talked about the web library at all, but just know that it has your backup. If I go into my web library, let's find that again. So I can get there by, sorry, just going to zotero.org and logging in. So I've already logged in. So now I can click on my web library. This is the cloud storage space. But bonus, if you are doing research somewhere that you don't have your laptop, you can just pull up, if you have an internet connection, you can pull up the web library and you can continue to add sources, which is fantastic. If you go down to the Terra Workshop, Olympic Games, everything's been synced. So it just happens automatically. All 5 sources that I've just added are there, which is great. And if you want to do it manually and just make sure everything really is syncing, open up your desktop and you can click on the little. So for example, if you've added something online, you close that off, you go back and open your desktop version, you just want to click on the little circle icon, the arrow icon. Oh, sorry. Okay, so going back to, so you can sync between your cloud storage and your desktop. This is excellent if your computer ever crashes. Some other things, you can export files, you can export your whole library if you want to move it. Now, so you can definitely export it. It will get as much, it will scrape as much of the data in the library that you can. But if you're moving it, say, from one Zotero platform into another software generator, sometimes the layout is a little wonky. Sometimes there's a few things that are lost. But generally, it will take whatever is in the file data and export that. So there's some information about exporting. If you're in Zotero, you can click at the top under File and Export Library is what you would do. You can export the files. You can include any notes you've taken and typed up. That will be added there. I don't think it always includes attachments. So if you have a lot of PDFs, I don't think it will include everything. That's my understanding. But the forum might have more information for you. There are ways to do groups. So if you want to study with someone, or if you're sharing it with an advisor, or if you're doing a class and you want to share among classmates, these are really helpful. There's 3 different types. You can do a private, you can do public, but closed membership, meaning you need a specific link to join, or you can just do searchable by anyone. There's Zotero libraries on lots of topics. You can just join those. So this gives some information there on how to join. You would click on the group's landing page. You can see what I am a part of. You can create a new group, select the type of membership, and create the group. And then it will give you a link to send to whoever you want to. You can type a name up for it. So that's a nice thing about Zotero as well, the group option. Now there is a forum dedicated, I mentioned, troubleshooting or questions. It's pretty active, like 3 hours ago, right? There's, I always recommend if you have a problem with Zotero is to first see if there's a helpful Q&A post on the forum. That can be helpful. I can also provide support in as much as I can help you, or sometimes I learn along with you. But I've used Zotero for a while, so I can work with you to figure it out. This is my email. There's also on the library page, the online chat. You can make a research appointment if you know you have an in-depth question and you just want to meet with me for a half hour. This can be online or in person at the library. Just find my name. You can search by my name here. Schedule appointment. I tend to work with the humanities, but I also do Zotero. So even if you're in a STEM person, you can always reach out to me if you have Zotero questions. It's totally fine. Just make an appointment. And you can always just ask at the desk if you're in person here in the building. Yeah, let me pause here actually. So we're getting into the very end when I have a feedback survey and anything there. But I wanted to see if there are any questions about Zotero. For those of you who don't, let me put in the workshop link. You are very, very welcome. Let me grab this. If you don't mind giving feedback, that would be fantastic. I'll send this out in an email to anyone who joined. Let's see. Go. It's in the chat. So this just gives us a way to gather suggestions. We review this to make improvements on our workshops. If you have any suggestions for future workshops, feel free. We had the Zotero workshop today, is what we did. That's anonymous, or can be anonymous. Again, if you're on the library website, the chat is the little icon there that pops up. There's a question. Oh, good question. You know what, Bill, I've never actually used Overleaf. So I'm not sure. Is Overleaf something similar to, like, this is my ignorance, I've never used it. So, you know, if it's similar to maybe Word or if it's like a note taking, I'm not sure. You can unmute or share more in the chat. You could also go to the Zotero forum and just see if it's compatible with Overleaf. I don't know offhand, sorry about that. You can always ask questions if you're here in person. This is another link to the, oh, okay, yeah, okay. Yeah, can Zotero be used with, well, let's just take a look. We can go to the forum. I think there is at least an LaTeX. Let's see. Bibliotext integration. Let's try Overleaf too. I don't know. It looks like you can kind of look through some of these. I don't know. I know that's really important if you're trying to add in formulas and things like that, though. It does look like there are some forums on generally using mathematical formulas. It looks like there's Overleaf is mentioned, the program on a few of these. Yeah, we could also look at anything that's compatible with. So sorry, I don't have a set answer for that, but that would be where I would go to find out. Yeah, so I'll just put my email again. Feel free to reach out. If you want to do some more searching with me on the forums, Bill, you're welcome to reach out. I would just be looking online, honestly, to see what other folks have posted about that. There are future workshops. There's one today in person. with free lunch at 3 o'clock on graduate services, providing an overview. That's here today. If you want to come in person, there will be free food from Chartwells. That's in room 259. You can always ask at the front desk. And that will go over general resources for graduate students. We'll also take questions, anything you're wondering about with the library and what it offers. And that concludes today. So there's also many other workshops that we offer throughout the rest of the year. So feel free to check those out. And have a wonderful rest of your week. You know, it's been a funny spring semester with the strange start date. I hope everyone is doing okay. And again, feel free to reach out if you have more questions. I'll go ahead and stop the recording. Thank you very much.